when you say Namaste, my understanding is that the divine in me salutes the divine in you. Very interesting, ancient concept that we all have forgotten along the way due to society, capitalism, or history, or conquest. There's a calling that rises in many of us, and that calling starts by remember who we are.
I want to start this, in a very simple, very human format. Before money, before technology, before markets, there's a word that sits at the center of everything you've built, and that's Ubuntu, like you say it, right? For someone hearing it for the very first time, what does Ubuntu mean to you?
Ubuntu, first, is it literally calls upon a reminder that we are all interconnected, that we don't exist in isolation, so that whenever we do anything, we should take a holistic view, and it applies to everything we do. And it's also an acknowledgement that we owe most of what we are to others, right? It's a kind of counter cyclical to this huge thing about individualism and so on, right? Where you acknowledge that as you evolve, you're going to need others, as others might need you sooner or later, and as such, you have to take things in consideration and everything in consideration. So that's really what it is. And also, when you look at the etymology of the word Ubuntu, Ubuntu actually you find it in, of course, Southern Africa, but you found it in East Africa, the Utu, Ubuntu, Ubuntu, different variation. And then when you look at the etymology, actually it comes from Abba Netu. And Abba, you find it in also like Aramean, Arabic, means from. And Netu, actually it comes from the ancient Kemetic language, which refers to the Neterus, right? In ancient Egypt, the times of pharaohs, etc. And the Neterus were the gods. But Neteru is the word that gave Natura. And people don't realize that. And as such, from the gods, meaning we are the divine creations of the gods, and we are a divine creation. And as such, we are called to kind of look in our highest form of divinity in who we are. And we should never forget where we come from, and no matter where and how life treats us. It's that real reminder that there's a divine in all of us, and as such, funny enough, it kind of connects with Namaste, right? When you say Namaste, my understanding is that the divine in me salutes the divine in you.
Exactly.
Right? And you can find the same in Mesoamerica, where they say Alakesh and Lakesh, right? Which is literally, I am you and you are me. So you see that very interesting ancient concept that we all have forgotten along the way due to society, capitalism, or history, or conquest, right? So, and it's also one of the most ancient words known to humanity. So, and you find it an equivalent in each part of the world, east, west, south, right? So we have that one thing in common, and this is the reminder that we should look at what unites us versus looking at what divides us.
Well spoken. Yeah, I think especially in today's world, that's extremely relevant, and people do forget that oftentimes. So, do you feel the world today, economically, socially, and financially, reflects the spirit of Ubuntu, or do you think we've drifted away from it?
I think we've drifted away from it significantly, right? When you see all the between the social tension, geopolitical tension, economic disparities. So there's been a loss of solidarity, right? Yes, we're entering in a multipolar world, but it's also because there was maybe a perceived form of tyranny that kind of get people to detach or to kind of claim their sovereignty back from a collective point of view. So there is a form of return progressive to that may emerge. And I think what internet has done really is bring us all onto that one platform, right? That somehow virtually, reconnect us, right? And like all systems, when they start breaking, it's also a time to kind of remember who we are, why we're here, what is our why as a collective, as a species, right? And we're entering this time, and it's also an opportunity for what you call ancient future or ancient wisdom to effectively emerge. And in this sense, there's been a loss of meaning. I think most people today wonder, okay, why do they go to work, right? Why the world is structured like that? Why so many inequalities? Why so many wars, right?
Existential
It's
crisis.
a huge existential crisis,
Yeah.
right? So, and I think COVID was an ignition in that sense. When everybody got isolated, it also get them to start thinking.
It forced them to
Right,
think.
exactly, right? So, and within that context, Ubuntu actually, even if I studied it earlier, rose in the sense of, okay, are we all going to be isolated in cells as humans in our boxes, or are we going to rise together and kind of co-create a new future for the generations to come? And our civilization is at this crossroad, and it's a very very important time when systems break, where there's a calling that rises in many of us. And that calling starts by remember who we are, right? And remember why we're here. And for me is once you kind of, it's like DNA, right? In each piece of our body, whether it's our hair, our eyes, our ears, or whatever, the same DNA runs, right? And that for me, Ubuntu, have decided to make it a blueprint in everything I do, because once you kind of imprint this very key principle in your personal life, in your professional life, in business, etc., then it creates the fabric of a new society that is more fair, that is more transparent, and where people support one another and rise together. Hence why we say Ubuntu, together we rise.